Chapter 453. The door to the practice room opened a crack and the scattered notes floated out. Under the guidance of the bass, the clear chords of the guitar streaked through 2 bars before breaking off. Then came the sound of discussion. Look, the effect is better without plugging in. You're using an acoustic guitar in a million-person venue? Aren't you trusting the organizer's equipment too much? The effect indoors and outdoors can't be compared. A small venue and a large venue are 2 different things. The acoustic guitar plan is too radical. I don't approve of it. But we need to highlight the harmonies. Wrong. We need to ignite the atmosphere. We can't ruin the entire song for the sake of 2 bars of harmonies. Don't argue for now. Let's find the feeling. Let's try a different amplifier. Then came a series of chaotic noises. When the notes floated out once more, harmony was added in the room. But it didn't even last a bar before breaking off again. Arguments arose once more. Luo Nan laughed and shook his head. Then he closed the door, not touching the restless and trembling atmosphere inside. He turned to look at Hai Jing behind him. They're really nervous. Hai Jing was a bit surprised. We're not going in? We're not going in. I'm afraid Moya will smash us with her guitar. Not yet, but it's hard to say for the others. Hai Jing touched the door handle and gave up. Then let's wait for the practice to end. After all, they're an underground band. Their nature has changed after signing with Mingtang culture. Right now is their period of transformation. It's not wrong to be nervous. Did they sign a contract or personal relationships? In other words, they'll pay more attention to commercial development, right? Yes, the trend. Hai Jing let out a light breath. I don't know if bringing them out from the underground circle is a good or bad thing. With Moya, his cousin who was obsessed with bands, around, Luo Nan knew a few things about the underground circle no matter how much he immersed himself in his own world. Signing with an underground band was a relatively sensitive topic. Many bands looked forward to signing a contract with a management company or music company. They wanted to walk from the underground to the surface. But the traditional style of buying records but not selling their bodies, and the habit of despising the trend was still very powerful. It would be fine if they really soared to the top, but the worst thing was that they would be rejected by the underground circle and the pop circle at the same time. Many bands would collapse at this stage. It was just like the awakening of supernatural powers. If they succeeded, everything would be fine, but if they failed, they would be stuck at the edge of 2 worlds. Forget about the pressure from the outside world. Just the confusion about where they stood was enough to make them suffer. Luo Nan shook his head. A sliver of heaven. A sliver of earth. Hai Jing chuckled when he saw Luo Nan's appearance. He rubbed Luo Nan's head in passing. Little fellow, when did you become so mature? Luo Nan was stupefied. Hai Jing was a bit embarrassed when she saw Luo Nan's expression. Don't mind me. My hand slipped. It's okay. You're the big brother. Luo Nan didn't care at all. I remember calling you uncle at the very beginning. You had a beard back then. Yeah, you still remember. Hai Jing grinned and pulled a bit of distance away from Luo Nan. He leaned against the opposite wall of the practice room and took out an exquisite box from his pocket. There were 3 e-cigarettes arranged neatly inside. He picked one up and put it in his mouth. His words were a bit unclear. Back then you were really muddle-headed. You looked stupid. The temperature of his mouth triggered the switch of the e-cigarette as he spoke. There was a crackling sound and the front of the e-cigarette was slightly red. Smoke rose in spirals. Luo Nan watched the red light on and off the front of the e-cigarette, and some memories from the depths of his brain resurfaced. Maybe. You even said that my surname shouldn't be Gong. I should be called Gong. If I don't ring, I won't ring. Then you splashed your fruit juice on my face and extinguished the cigarette. Oh, that was my first time visiting your house. I stole a puff in the yard. Why did I have to talk so much? So embarrassing. Hai Jing waved his hand. He stuck his head to the wall and forced his face to the ceiling. He looked like he didn't have the face to see anyone. Perhaps this was also called not being proper. Luo Nan was more familiar with this image compared to Hai Jing's well-dressed suit. He laughed again and said to Hai Jing, there's no band that doesn't want to sign a contract. I don't know about Moya. My aunt has always felt that the underground circle is too chaotic. If she knew that Moya signed with a proper management company, she should be happy. The underground circle is chaotic. This circle isn't peaceful either. The e-cigarette in Hai Jing's mouth shook up and down. Mingtang culture is facing a change in its shares. It's a matter right now. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Luonan felt a bit of empathy. Not being able to enter the circle of the awakened was one thing. Truly entering the inner world seemed to bring all sorts of troubles. Obsession underground. Troubles in the sky. None of them can be avoided. Okay. You've become a philosopher. Did something hasten your maturity? Luonan blinked and changed the topic. Brother Jing, you still quit smoking in the end. I haven't really smoked for the past 2 years. It's funny when I think about it. I can't quit no matter what when I'm singing. But once I stop singing, it's all over. Hai Jing's wristband vibrated at this time. He lowered his head to look at it. Then he straightened his body and removed the e-cigarette. Here comes the trouble. I'll take you to find a place to rest. There are quite a few empty rooms here. Wasting them is wasting them, but safety and privacy are guaranteed. Luonan nodded and followed. Hai Jing put the e-cigarette back into the box. He suddenly thought of something and waved the box. Oh right. Thank your uncle for me. He was the one who recommended this Star Ember series to me. Luonan laughed without saying anything. But he suddenly remembered. Amoya had so many friends. Among the men, only Hai Jing was able to visit her home alone and enter her room. Perhaps this was the key reason why he mistook Hai Jing for his brother-in-law? Mistook. Mingtang culture was one of the organizers of this parade. Before the official performance, there were a multitude of matters to attend to. Hai Jing said that he was going to lead Luonan to find an empty room to rest in. But he hadn't taken a few steps when an urgent matter came pressing down on him. He needed to rush over immediately. Forget it. You go by yourself. Room 5627. Just turn around the corner at the end of the corridor. Hai Jing joked as he spoke. Don't worry about bumping into people. It's fine if you try one by one. Every practice room has its own privileges. You can't enter without authorization. Okay. Go do what you need to do, Brother Jing. Hai Jing turned around and was about to leave when he remembered something. Oh right. Your girlfriend is in room 5621. She's with Bai Yu and the others. You can go there and take a stroll. With your friendship with Teacher Cat Eyes, she shouldn't kick you out. BHD's music style is more suited to the tastes of you youngsters. You made 3 mistakes in a single sentence. Should I correct you or not? In the end, Luonan could only accept it with a smile. Hai Jing wanted to rub Luonan's head, but he came to his senses in time. He placed a palm on Luonan's shoulder. Have fun this weekend, but you need to show some concern for your sister. Luonan looked pensive as he watched Hai Jing leave in a hurry. 5627, 5627. Luonan followed Hai Jing's instructions and found room 5627 in the corner. He was just about to reach his hand out to grab the door handle when he suddenly stopped. He raised his head to confirm the room number. 5627. That's right. There are no problems with the privileges. But why were the 2 people inside able to go in? And why were they having fun so much? The use of mental senses actually manifested here. Right now there was only one thing he was conflicted over. Should he continue watching? Or should he continue watching? Luonan sighed outside the door. There was a saying in Hai Jing that was very true. The industry was very messy. Youngsters these days were quite knowledgeable. No one was a pure white lotus. Luonan had attended health classes before. Mo Peng would sometimes sneakily give him some indescribable materials and the like. Luonan was not lacking in concepts. But he had devoted himself to researching all sorts of theories since the age of 10. He worked every day and night. How could he have the leisure to delve into these things? He never expected that 16 years of emptiness would bring him this sort of high-level course in a single day of enlightenment. They should both be artists. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. Though their clothes were in disarray, their makeup and grooming were extremely fashionable. It was hard for Luonan to avoid lingering on the body of the woman. Though he didn't approve of this sort of behavior in broad daylight, he had to admit that they were very good-looking. The woman's long hair covered half of her face. The contours of her face were slightly distorted due to the intense exercise. However, artists had innate conditions that were a cut above others. They also had strict body management as well as the polishing of temperament and style. When they were released in the darkroom, they really did have a charm that stirred people's hearts. So, what in the world am I thinking? Luonan didn't know how long he stood at the door in a daze. Of course he didn't enter in the end. Instead he walked forward with quick steps. After walking for nearly 20 meters he finally stood still in the middle of the hallway and let out a long breath. His lips hadn't even parted due to the fast exhalation of air. His lips trembled rapidly under the impact of the airflow, emitting a strange puffing sound. The restless air that was stuck in his chest dissipated a bit with this comical sound. Goo! The forceful choking sound of laughter was very clear in the hallway. At the same time the sound of laughter entered Luonan's ears. The door to the next room opened a crack to reveal Baiyu's cute round face. What the hell? You're so conflicted just by entering the door? Luonan raised his head to look at the room number 5621. This was BHD's practice room. What a coincidence. He turned his head to glance back. He had walked nearly 20 meters and was only 2 doors away from room 5627. After all, the practice rooms were very large. Baiyu must have just gone through a round of practice. A thin layer of sweat covered her forehead, sticking to her hair. Her face was flushed red as well. Did you see your sister? You came here to visit me? That's right, your girlfriend is in there. Don't you know if she's my girlfriend or not? Luonan only realized the ambiguity when he said it. He laughed bitterly. He has a boyfriend. What's that Caucasian guy's name again? Turner. Baiyu blurted out. Then she covered her mouth and shot a glance behind her. She turned her head to look at the 2 ends of the hallway. Only when she didn't see anyone did she let out a sigh of relief. Then she pushed open the door and walked out. She closed the door behind her and lowered her voice. Don't let Jinggu hear you. He hates it when his artists lie. Luonan frowned as he watched Baiyu walk out. Baiyu had been practicing her dance in the room just now. She had even worn 10-centimeter high heels in order to imitate the scene of the performance to the greatest degree. Her well-developed body had grown a bit taller. When she stood together she was taller than Luonan by 2 or 3 fingers. Of course this wasn't important. What was important was that Baiyu was wearing a tight-fitting dance outfit. She was already drenched in sweat. The curve of her chest caused a gap to appear in her small round collar. Her snowy white flesh shone in front of Luonan's eyes. He didn't know whether to look at her or turn his head. Chapter 454. It was probably the legendary goblins that got to their brains. Luonan wanted to smack his own head. He felt that he wouldn't be more embarrassed than he was right now if he were to fight with an extraordinary. This was an exaggeration. A moment of embarrassment was far from being comparable to a duel of life and death. Ever since he entered the inner world, everything he encountered was much more difficult than what he was facing now. Compared to the true predicament he faced, the current encounter was nothing more than a small stumble in adolescence. He had overcome even greater difficulties. There was no reason for him to shrink back now. No, there was no reason for him to be a slave to his desires. Luonan's mind fluctuated with a few thoughts and he felt much better. He took a deep breath and maintained a steady tone of voice. I understand. Go back and practice. Where are you going? Did Brother Jing really arrange work for you? Before Luonan could think of a good reason, the sound of noisy footsteps could be heard from the other end of the corridor. A large group of people circled around the corner, room 5627, and walked over. The most eye-catching people in the crowd were the bodyguards with strong bodies in suits and leather shoes. They formed a dense layer around the perimeter. There were also service personnel with work nameplates hanging to the side. However, the most eye-catching person was a fashionably dressed woman in the deepest part of the crowd. She wore sunglasses and her head was slightly raised. She was surrounded by people and her aura grew more and more powerful. The spacious hallway became exceptionally narrow because of the arrival of this group of people. The wild mandarin ducks in room 5627 heard the noise. They tightly hugged each other from a negative distance. Under panic and stimulation they secreted large amounts of dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, and so on. Their entire bodies responded, and they even confused the boundaries between pleasure and fear. Only now did Luonan discover that he had been paying attention to them all this time. This was really. The result of seeing oneself clearly was often awkwardness. Awkwardness wasn't a poison. One wouldn't die from suffocation. Luonan thought that he was the only one who knew from beginning to end. At most, he would be able to research the information in private. This was a benefit brought to him by his ability. It was fine as long as he didn't get affected by it and reflected his desires into reality. Luo Nan's mental construction had just reached a certain level when he suddenly felt a tug. He turned his head to look and saw Bai Yu's taut face. She gave him a meaningful glance to get closer. Her body language was quite nervous. With Luo Nan's current attainments in body techniques, he obviously wouldn't be tugged by a little girl. But seeing Bai Yu's expression, he took the opportunity to walk over and the two of them stood against the wall. Bai Yu let out a sigh of relief. She then lowered her head and crossed her hands over her abdomen. Her posture was as proper as a flight attendant's. At this moment, a group of people happened to pass by. She immediately smiled and greeted them in a low but clear voice. Sister Weiwei, Director Wu. Even with Luo Nan's eyesight, he wasn't able to see whether or not the powerful woman responded. Instead, a middle-aged man in his 50s spoke to Luo Nan's side. Don't loiter around outside. If you need to practice, go practice. The dense mass of people walked past. They made a right turn at the end of the corridor, breaking away from Luo Nan and Bai Yu's line of sight. However, Luo Nan's mental senses remained clairvoyant from beginning to end. At the corner was a semi-sealed passageway. The passageway was locked by a transparent electronic door. At the end of the passageway was a carved double door. Behind the door was a rather luxurious suite that could easily fit dozens of people. The group of people walked into the suite. Not long after, the service staff who had just followed them in hurriedly left, most likely having received a task. Seeing the service staff pass by, Bai Yu stuck out her tongue. I got caught. I have to get out of here. Hold on, who's that? Director Wu. She's the head of the company's artist department. Brother Jing's immediate superior. Of course, she's also our big boss. Bai Yu's eyes blinked as she spoke. It was as if she was telling Luo Nan that she was different from the boss she had won a bet with. Luo Nan's heartbeat sped up a bit when he was stared at by these eyes. Unfortunately, the scene of the ravine and snow-white muscles kept swaying in his mind. He did his best to rid himself of the effects of his hormones and tried to chat normally. That Sister Weiwei should be an artist as well. It looks like she's treated much better than you. How can that be the same? You don't know her? I'm not familiar with the entertainment circle. You really don't know her? What's there to show off? My heart suddenly feels better. Bai Yu clasped her hands together and made a gesture of thanking God. Then she happily explained to Luo Nan, that's the pillar of our Mingtang culture, Wei. She's a standard A-list artist. She's quite famous in East Asia and Southeast Asia. Wei, you don't have any impression. No, I can remember a bit. She debuted as a super pure and innocent celebrity. She seems to have successfully transformed her career. Her acting path is quite wide. There was a period of time when Mo Ping was very obsessed with her. He borrowed money from me to buy peripherals. Bai Yu let out a long sigh. Peripherals. When we debuted, peripherals were half sold and half given away. Even so, we still accumulated half a warehouse. She's not like Sister Wei. Her position as the #1 sister in the company will be more or less stabilized in the next few years. Luo Nan paid attention to the situation in the room. He discovered that Shi Wei and the big boss of the artiste department, Director Wu, were talking on equal terms. She was even a bit stronger. Sure enough, she had the style of a #1 sister. She's even invited to stand on the stage for this sort of parade and assembly? Sister Wei's transformation was in the direction of public welfare. Plus, with her popularity, standing on the stage is more effective than us dancing for an entire night. But that's weird. Sister Wei's schedule is famous for being tight. There's still 7 or 8 hours until the performance. Bai Yu's eyes shone brightly. Her eyes were lit up by curiosity. She had long forgotten about being caught red-handed. She lowered her head and operated her wristband. She checked the internet and even signaled Luo Nan to come over and enjoy the show. Sky Street. One of the largest gossip communities in East Asia. Their social media accounts are updated in real time. Even though it's annoying to be exposed here, honestly speaking, we still hope to see news about ourselves on there. It'll increase our exposure. Is this fairy? She's secretly meeting a new lover. Looks like she was out on a date and got caught by the paparazzi. She's definitely here to hide. This sealed floor was indeed quiet. The paparazzi didn't have the authority to come here. But what the hell was Bai Yu excited about? Luo Nan finally understood. Bai was older than him by half a year, but she was actually a little gossip bug. It was sad that she had chosen the enemy camp. Luo Nan was shaking his head in his mind when he suddenly discovered a new situation. He signaled for Bai to open the door to the practice room behind him and pushed her inside. Someone's coming. Luo Nan let out a breath after dealing with the loose ends. He turned around and walked in the opposite direction. But he hadn't walked more than a few steps when he heard someone call out to him, "Hey, you over here." Luo Nan turned his head with a pure expression. "You called me?" The person who called out to Luo Nan was none other than Director Wu. He walked out from the sealed passageway with a slightly chubby young woman following by his side. The woman was talking to him. "It's better if I go by myself." "Don't. The reporters outside are like wolves and tigers. You've been with Little Wei for far too long. They all recognize you. Let someone else do the work of running errands." Director Wu scanned Luo Nan's face as he spoke. He felt that this young man's face was quite young and unfamiliar. He was a bit puzzled. "Which department are you from?" Luo Nan subconsciously replied, "I'm with Brother Jing." "Hi Jing, right?" Director Wu's gaze swept over the nameplate on Luo Nan's chest and he felt relieved. He signaled for Luo Nan to come over and instructed, "You and Assistant Meng exchange numbers. Remove the nameplate and go to Ruifeng Building. Bring back the pre-ordered breakfast set. I've already trained you guys on how to hide from reporters. Be smart." There was no need to explain the cause and effect. Luo Nan couldn't refuse in this situation. Otherwise he would be digging a hole for Hai Jing. He responded honestly, removed the nameplate, turned around and left. Director Wu and Assistant Meng returned to the suite. Luo Nan quickly walked through the hallway, but just as he passed room 5621, a crack in the door of the practice room opened. Bai poked her head out. "Oh, the refreshments of Ruifeng Building. They're so damn expensive. And they don't have takeout service. I can only pick them up from their doorstep. But I heard that they're good for your looks. I really need to run errands this time." The girl had been eavesdropping through the crack in the door all this time. Luo Nan didn't care about running errands. Hai Jing was able to bring him in. Why couldn't he do something? He asked casually, "Do you want some? I'll give you some along the way." "There's no need for refreshments. I can't afford them." But she turned around and said a few words into the room. A few seconds later she poked her head out again. She blinked her eyes fiercely and did her best to charm. "Brother Luo Nan, come in for a bit, okay?" Luo Nan sighed and entered the room according to her words. Four gazes fell upon him as soon as he entered the room. He recognized Cat Eyes and Yu Qin. There were also two young girls who were a bit older than Bai. They were undoubtedly the other two members of the BHD group. Hai Jing had mentioned before that one of them was Shui Yuan, who had the nickname of Housekeeper. The other was Clara, Barbie. As members of a girl group, their personas were quite distinct. The one who was drenched in sweat and had a white towel draped over her shoulder was frowning as she looked over. She was most likely Shui Yuan. She had a serious face and her figure was the most well-proportioned and fit. As for Clara, she was undoubtedly the charming mixed-blood beauty. Her skin was as white as milk and her looks were extremely high. Bai giggled and clapped. Hurry up, hurry up. High-end free labor is only available once. Boss Luo is going to Ruifeng Road to pick up takeout. Anyone who wants to pick up something along the way, hurry up and sign up. The floor is closed right now. If you miss this opportunity, you'll have no hope at all." Shredded radish? The charming Clara let out a low laugh. She was amorous and she was much more mature than her age. She also casually created a new nickname for Luo Nan. Barbie. Though, as the captain, Shui Yuan naturally opened her mouth to reprimand her team members for their impolite actions. But when the nicknames of these two were linked together, it was quite funny. Shui Yuan acted as if she didn't notice. She took the initiative to extend her hand. "You must be student Luo." "Oh." Luo Nan extended his hand in response, but he was slapped away by Cat Eyes who had just walked over halfway. Cat Eyes didn't care about Luo Nan and Shui Yuan's awkwardness. She clapped her hands to attract everyone's attention. "If we delay any longer, we'll miss breakfast time. The boss is running errands for Shiwei. It takes around half an hour for him to go back and forth to Ruifeng Building. The other takeout deliveries should arrive around this time as well. How about this? Everyone can order their own food and wait for the boss to come back to bring it up at the same time. No problems, right?" Chapter 455. The group of people all rolled over in laughter. But these girls did not know how much complicated information was contained in Luo Nan and Cat Eye's conversation. They also did not know what sort of sharpness was hidden in their gazes. Luo Nan was drunk when faced with such a believer who was unconvinced and had a tendency to self-destruct. Shui Yuan, who was next to Luo Nan, thought of something. She suggested, "Let's first exchange numbers. We'll send our orders to student Luo to avoid mistakes and to avoid transferring again." Bai Yu was the first to agree. But she turned around and revealed a fierce expression. "If the private numbers of 3 future idols get out, you're dead for sure." Unfortunately, no matter how much she twisted her face, her adorable round face could only show cuteness. Luo Nan shrugged and extended his hand to exchange numbers with them. He also gained the friendship of the BHD girl group. He waved his hand, turned around and walked out. "You guys hurry up and order your food. Also, please pay attention to the type of food. Fast food and pastries are the best. I don't want to have to wait downstairs for a dozen or 20 minutes after coming back." Bai Yu let out an "ah" and expressed with extreme innocence, "We're all obese. What about body management?" Shui Yuan stared at her. "Body management has already collapsed the moment you suggested it." "But Captain, you didn't refute it. I'll take you guys to strengthen your training for 2 hours. Hypocrite. Pervert." Luo Nan had already opened the door to leave the BHD group's internal strife. At this time, the silent Yuqin walked up to him and whispered into his ear, "Mr. Luo, let me go with you." No need, no need." Cat Eyes giggled as she hugged Yuqin's shoulder. She kissed her and firmly pressed her down. "Right now he's burning hot. His head has a fever. It'll be better for him to go out by himself." "You're the one with a fever," Luo Nan retorted. But when he saw Cat Eye's expression, he understood that something good had happened next door. It was impossible to hide it from her. In fact, Cat Eyes might have even seen his relatively straightforward reaction earlier on. Was it awkward? Of course it was. But his special relationship with Cat Eyes had more or less dispelled a portion of it. He just glared at her and opened the door. Cat Eyes suddenly said, "I won't order a meal for you. You can just go to Auspicious Abundance Restaurant and receive a flowing stone set. Simple and quick." "Thank you, boss." As she spoke, Cat Eyes gave him a salute. Luo Nan turned his head, speechless for a time. He didn't know the market price of Ruifeng Restaurant, but from the look of fear on Bai Yu's face, he could tell how powerful the flowing stone was. Fortunately, he had just earned a large sum of money last night, so he had some confidence. In the end, he just waved his hand and walked out of the door. The elevator required them to pass by room 5627. Luo Nan noticed that the wild mandarin ducks were still inside. They were already neatly dressed and they stuck to the door with one in front and one in back. They used the visual system of the door to observe the situation outside. They were at a loss as to whether or not to open the door. Luo Nan's sudden passing caused the male artist to jump in fright. He blurted out a curse. "You're asking for a beating." Luo Nan raised his eyebrows. He didn't stop and just walked straight past. The male artist finally confirmed that there was no one outside the door. Just as he opened the door a crack, there was a loud thud and the door shook. He went, "Ah," and fell back, bumping into his completely defenseless bedmate behind him. The female artist screamed and fell back. Fortunately, she reacted in time and held onto the male artist so she didn't fall down. However, the collar of the male artist's shirt made the female artist choke. Luo Nan used his interference power to vent his anger, then he took the elevator downstairs. The female artist screamed and fell back. Hai Jing discovered that Luo Nan had gone out from the nameplate information system and asked. The boss was embarrassed when he found out about the situation. He wanted to send someone to take his place, but Luo Nan refused. Luo Nan didn't care about running errands. Peony's so-called perfect plan wasn't feasible and he was already idle. It wasn't bad to have something to do. Also, since Ruifeng Restaurant's refreshments were famous, there was no harm in giving some to Mo Ya and the others. Wasn't this supposed to be a visit? Luo Nan soon exited the office building. According to the display of the electronic map, he needed to cross the plaza to the opposite block. Crossing the plaza, which could hold several 100,000 people, was not a matter of a few steps. Due to the demonstration, some public transportation was restricted. He had to either ride a bicycle or rely on his 2 legs. In short, it was physically exhausting work. Bicycle, leg, single leg, car. Forget it. Let's just ride a bicycle. Luo Nan turned off the electronic map. Before this, he had already locked onto the location of the legendary Ruifeng restaurant through his mental senses. Right now, he wasn't afraid of walking the wrong way even if he closed his eyes. Luo Nan rode his bicycle across the plaza. Right now, the municipal plaza could be considered to be a sea of people. The bicycle needed to take many detours before it could find the specially opened evacuation tunnel. The bicycle could travel relatively smoothly. Luo Nan's wristband vibrated continuously. It was a screenshot of the order sent by the BHD group. 1, 2, 3. Oh, the fourth ring wasn't from the wristband. Came from the connection between Luo Nan and Ink on the mental plane. The source came from Peony, who was still wandering halfway. How's the progress? If you want to do this sort of plan again, then find someone better. Luo Nan roughly observed the situation around the municipal plaza. The living starry sky was becoming more and more crowded. It was like a river overflowing under a torrential rain. Millions and millions of stars flowed endlessly, refreshing at every moment. If Luo Nan wanted to search for ability users, mutants, or even darksider species like the Wraith sign, Luo Nan would not be afraid. But if he wanted to search for Phase 2 infected. Phase 2? You want to search for Phase 2? Peony was surprised for once. What's wrong? Right now it's estimated to be Phase 2. Of course I want to search for Phase 2 and be vigilant against Phase 3. Peony interrupted his words. Mr. Partner, you have obsessive-compulsive disorder, right? Cough. That's because I lack common sense. Right now in the world, there are no methods outside of the laboratory that can effectively determine the existence of Phase 2 infected. Especially in this sort of environment. I believe this is the most basic of common sense. You're not going to search for Phase 2? Of course. Phase 1 is the source of infection for mutants. Phase 3 is the target for primary mutants. These are the targets of search that have actual meaning. I know that Phase 2 infected people have more value in management, but that's only in theory. It doesn't have any actual meaning. Perhaps only people with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder would consider things from this angle. Luo Nan was certain that if Peony stood in front of him, he would accelerate at full speed and crash into her. Several seconds later, Peony sent him a low chuckle. Mr. Partner, are you angry? Luo Nan ignored her. I'm sorry. Maybe I haven't completely sobered up, or maybe I'm on my period. I don't really pay attention to what I say. You should already be in the plaza right now. Do you want to meet up with me? I've always been quite curious about a partner like you. Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped. He instinctively looked all around, believing that Peony had discovered him. He only reacted half a second later. She was still walking leisurely on the road right now, and Ink was her best informant. But on the other hand, Luo Nan had displayed a degree of familiarity with the current situation of the plaza because Ink was together with her. This made Peony make a judgment that matched the facts. Did he give himself away? Luo Nan hesitated for a moment. He wasn't interested in maintaining a sense of mystery, but Her Majesty Empress Wu must have had her reasons for arranging this pattern. There was no need to complicate matters. So he refused. He put on a little act in passing. Compared to my eyes, your plan is more meaningful. Fine. In any case, someone is treating me to lunch. Even though I might not go. Then we'll contact each other again in the afternoon. We'll work overtime together at night to search for the targets of Phase 1 and Phase 3. Peony intentionally emphasized these two words. Luo Nan's lips twitched. If you discover anything during this time, you can notify me. I'm always online. There was nothing else to do after this. Luo Nan rode his bicycle and locked onto Ruifeng building. He left in a hurry and returned in a hurry. When he really rode over, he knew that this journey would not be easy. Time was very tight. Fortunately, Luo Nan had been cultivating non-stop recently. Coupled with the feedback from his soul strength under the coupling relationship, his physical strength surpassed the limits of an ordinary person. He was able to smoothly make a round trip within 20 minutes. Luo Nan returned to the office building. The takeout ordered by the BHD group had arrived one after another. The last delivery boy arrived around the same time as Luo Nan. Luo Nan was near the service desk. He checked the orders one by one to confirm that everything was complete. Then he encountered a new problem. As a temporary delivery boy, Luo Nan was running 5 or 6 orders at the same time, but he only had one pair of hands. The amount of food for so many people and the reality of the separate packaging made it impossible for Luo Nan to use conventional methods to move this pile of things up in one go. Luo Nan looked at the pile of beautifully packaged food boxes on the ground, and he was puzzled despite much thought. It didn't make sense. No matter how gluttonous a group of girls were, they shouldn't have gone to this extent. Did they still need to manage their bodies? Luo Nan checked the order information they sent over once more, but he didn't discover any problems. Oh, wait a moment. There was another message besides the order. The sender of the message was Clara. Luo Nan gave a cursory glance and laughed bitterly. The sound of lithe footsteps drew near at this time. A woman's voice whispered, "Mr. Luo, let me help." Luo Nan turned his head and saw Yu Qin greeting him 3 steps away from him. Their gazes met and Yu Qin bowed slightly. She wore a moon-white long sweater that reached her knees. She paired it with a polka-dot blouse and a high-waisted skirt. She walked with a light and familiar style. It was fortunate that her temperament was able to hold it up. In the end, she still came downstairs to greet him. This sort of attitude concealed her natural intelligence and sharpness. She concealed it over and over again. She was extremely cautious and conservative. Luo Nan knew what Yu Qin was thinking, and Yu Qin had a corresponding awareness. Perhaps it was a bit difficult for her to grasp the right amount of heat, so she simply did things a bit more extreme. What she sought was a state of, "No one will blame you for being too polite." Such a smart and calm young girl had really been implicated by her stupid older brother. But then again, Luo Nan couldn't figure it out. Could it be that in the eyes of others he really was a big boss who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance? A big boss who would annihilate an entire family? Luo Nan sighed. "It's good that you came. Help keep an eye out for a bit. I'll go find a luggage cart or something." Only now did Yu Qin truly count the number of food boxes stacked under Luo Nan's feet. She was a bit shocked. This many? It seems like Clara ordered lunch for the seniors in the same building. Chapter 456. Yu Qin and Clara's friendship had not yet reached the stage of judging behind her back, so she only smiled. As it turned out, the possibility of finding a luggage cart in the lobby of an office building was almost zero. In the end, the two of them still had to use the simplest method of manual labor to move the food boxes into the elevator. "Let's move one batch first. Later you guard the elevator. I'll move the rest over." "All right. By the way, call them, especially Clara. Just wait outside the elevator. It's a waste not to use the labor. Once we arrive at the station, we'll split them up." Yu Qin obeyed obediently and really called the other side. Then the two of them picked up the big and small food boxes and walked inside. Since it was a private elevator, not many people used it. They didn't see anyone else on the way. It was also at this moment that Yu Qin finally broke the veil. "Mr. Luo, I'm very sorry." Luo Nan gazed at the long corridor in front of him. He was a bit helpless. "I don't care about that matter." "I know." Yu Qin lowered her eyes and smiled faintly, her meaning subtle. "I can see that. However, I said sorry, because if I didn't do something unnecessary to confirm it from you, I wouldn't be able to feel at ease. That's why I pestered you so much today. Please forgive me." Only then did Luo Nan shoot her a glance. He nodded and said, "It's fine." Before Yu Qin could say anything else, the elevator in front of them opened and a middle-aged man hurried out. He was dressed in formal attire and the style was quite similar to that of Hai Jing. He took off the nameplate on his chest as he walked. Luo Nan's eyes were sharp. He saw that it was the pass to Mingtang Culture's floor. As they walked past each other, the man glanced at him. His wristband rang at that moment. He quickly answered the call and answered, Yes, I'm Xianxia. It's on the first floor of the Tonghui building. Just come over, I'll wait outside." "No problem, there's absolutely no problem with the authority." Luo Nan piled up the food boxes in the elevator and left Yu Qin to look after them. Then he went back and moved them a second time. In the lobby, he saw the man with the surname Xia standing straight outside the door like an old doorman. Luo Nan didn't mind. He carried the remaining food containers back to the elevator and tidied things up with Yu Qin. They both swiped their nameplates and prepared to go up. A second later, the elevator doors opened again. He could vaguely hear the man surnamed Xia panting outside. "I made it. Young master, he please." A group of people hurried in as they spoke. The leader of the group cursed, Xia City really has enough paparazzi. Luo Nan and Yu Qin had already paid great attention to their placement, but there were far too many food boxes. The people who came later were in a rush. The person at the front nearly kicked over a food box when they swarmed in. Actually, Luo Nan had already kicked him, but Luo Nan used his interference power to move along with the force without making a sound. The momentum was eliminated and Luo Nan passed smoothly. He did it very discreetly. In the elevator, be it Yu Qin or the person who came in first, none of them noticed. But outside the elevator, there was a strong reaction from the people who were entering one after another. They rushed forward and grabbed the shoulder of the person in the lead, forcefully pulling him back. His aura exploded, stirring up great waves. Luo Nan's mental senses had already covered the newcomer. He had not sensed the ability user earlier. However, in that instant the person who had reacted first had actually leaped from an extremely ordinary state to at least C+. His explosive power was astonishing, and his ability to conceal his aura was even more impressive. Luo Nan's relaxed mind suddenly went taut. He locked onto the most threatening target in the first instance. He subconsciously extended his arm to block Yu Qin behind him. But the scene suddenly changed in the next moment. Someone shouted, "Young Master He," and rushed up in a hurry. It was the person with the surname Sha, who was suspected to be an employee of Mingtang culture. The weather was obviously cold, but this person's face was covered in a layer of sweat. The sweat moistened his dry and loose cheeks. His face seemed to glow faintly and he was especially excited. "What's going on? The elevator is broken." The person with the surname Sha saw Luo Nan and Yu Qin in the exclusive elevator. There were food boxes of all sizes by their feet. He was stunned, but soon he said angrily, "What's going on with you guys? This is an exclusive elevator assigned to our company. Non-authorized personnel are not allowed to enter." Luo Nan didn't pay attention to him. He just cautiously scanned everyone outside the elevator. He saw two familiar faces in a row and it was inevitable that he was a bit surprised. At the same time, the most threatening person should have recognized him. His solemn expression loosened a bit. He bowed slightly, an apology for his overreaction just now. "Mr. Luo, what's the situation?" Qin Ikuan, who was outside the building, communicated through the hex ear. His tone was nervous. The instantaneous explosion of the aura just now had appeared on the security team's monitoring equipment. It was truly a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. To put it bluntly, it was a complete mess. "It's a misunderstanding. It's nothing." Luo Nan privately replied to Qin Ikuan. He found it a bit funny. In the end, was it a large-scale event to attract people? Or were the people of Xia City evil? Today's acquaintances were jumping out one by one. It was impossible to stop them. Luo Nan took care of both sides at the same time. It was inevitable that he would overlook the least important person. He didn't open his mouth, but Yu Qin stepped forward and spoke in a soft voice. "We followed Director Wu's instructions to go to Ruifeng building to get some refreshments for Sister Wei Wei. You know, it's not convenient for Assistant Meng to leave right now." This reason was sufficient. The person with the surname Sha seemed to believe it. "You guys are from Mingtang culture? Where's the nameplate?" Director Wu had arranged for Luo Nan to remove his nameplate before leaving to avoid running into paparazzi reporters. Luo Nan forgot to hang his nameplate on his chest after entering the elevator and swiping his nameplate. He stuffed it back into his pocket. Most of Yu Qin's body was blocked behind him, so this person probably didn't see it. The other person's words were quite reasonable. Luo Nan took out his nameplate and spread it out in his palm, displaying it for the other person to see. The person with the surname Sha simply took the nameplate and blinked. His contact lenses scanned the nameplate and the relevant information was read out. "Authorized by Haijing." "And yours?" Yu Qin copied Luo Nan and handed over her nameplate. The person with the surname Sha received it and confirmed it once more before nodding. It looked like he approved of it. He even revealed a smile on his face. "So you guys were brought by Haijing. Since you guys are Haijing's subordinates, have you never asked who their department head is?" There was such a thing. Luo Nan was just about to explain when he heard a loud bang. This Director Sha smashed the side wall of the elevator with force. "Which family do you guys belong to? You came in through crooked means? Mountain Creek or B? Speak." Luo Nan knew that things were bad when Manager Sha's expression suddenly changed. The two of them had indeed gone through the back door. They could accept being reprimanded. But Director Shah's words clearly put a label on Haijing. The meaning behind it was quite deep. Luo Nan frowned. The two acquaintances, outside the elevator, were watching with cold eyes. He didn't want to engage in a meaningless conflict and make a fool of himself, so he said, "We really were upstairs helping out." Every single bastard says the same thing. Then they do whatever they want to do. Director Shah sneered. Director Wu has a myriad of problems to deal with every day. He only recognizes nameplates and not people. It's not strange that you guys have Haijing supporting you from behind. Everyone knows that Sister Wei has the habit of having morning and afternoon tea. But don't tell me you guys bought all of this for Sister Wei? Okay, you guys don't need to say anything. I'll have Haijing explain things to Director Wu. Director Shah quickly blinked twice and took a picture of Luo Nan and Yu Qin. He raised his chin. Leave Sister Wei's tea and snacks behind. Take the rest out. Be more self-aware or else I'll call security. Director Shah turned his body after he finished speaking coldly. His arrogant figure instantly bent in half and the wrinkles on his face piled up. Young He, please wait a moment. We'll be done here soon. Chapter 457. No matter what, Yu Qin was born into a wealthy family. Even though she was submissive to Luo Nan, she was extremely arrogant in her bones. Director Shah was a department head of a management company, yet he was arrogant and bossy. He even spat out the words, "Get lost." How could she endure this? Show some respect. Miss. Do you think it would be more respectful to let the security guards come and drag you away? Director Shah looked at Yu Qin's clothes. Most of them were fashionable items and her matching was quite good. He knew that this woman's family was quite well off. Normally he wouldn't have directly shed all pretense of cordiality. But right now he was backed by the young master of the He family. In a few days he would be like a fish leaping into a dragon. What was there to be afraid of? Director Shah held a breath of heroism as he stood in front of the elevator door. He felt more and more at ease. He didn't waste words and directly called for the building's security guards. He finished calling and saw that Luo Nan and Yu Qin had no intention of coming out. He wasn't in a hurry. He reached out and pointed at the two. Him was Fine. You guys stay here. Director Shah directly confiscated their nameplates and used his authority to lock down the elevator. Only then did he turn around and smile once more. Apologies, young He. I wasn't strict enough with my subordinates. I've made a fool out of myself. There's no reason to reason with these idol-chasing kids. I'll deal with the relevant personnel of the company severely later. Young He, don't let them ruin your mood. I'll have the property management open up a backup elevator. It won't take much time. Young He chuckled outside the elevator. It's fine. Director Shah handled things well. You've thought things through very thoroughly. It's my duty. It's my duty. Young He, this way please. Director Shah relaxed completely when he saw that Young He didn't blame him. He twisted his face and gave Luo Nan and Yu Qin a cold glance. He was about to walk out of the elevator when he remembered something. Give me Sister Wei's refreshments. He wanted to be bold and confident, but Luo Nan and Yu Qin were disinclined to pay attention to him. Director Shah saw that the security guards had already come over from the other end of the corridor. He was even more fearless. He simply did it himself. He lowered his head and searched through the food boxes on the floor. He had seen the refreshments and food boxes of Ruifeng building before. According to his thoughts, there was only one such high-end custom-made food box in the elevator. He could just take it away if he found it. He believed that this young couple wouldn't dare to snatch it. But when he cast his gaze over, Director Shah was stunned. 1, 2, 3. 3 maroon food boxes specially made by Ruifeng restaurant were neatly arranged at the innermost end of the elevator. The original wood material and the 3-story pavilion's design were exactly the same as the Eastern classical artwork. Director Shah could not help but turn his head and look at young Master He, who was still smiling and watching the show. Could it be that Shi Wei specifically ordered 3 portions to entertain the guests? This was drinking tea, not feeding pigs. So the other 2 were probably bought by the young couple themselves to give to their idols? The price at Ruifeng restaurant was not low. Which one is Sister Wei's? Manager Shah had no choice but to ask. Luo Nan shrugged. He was too lazy to even open his mouth. He had to admit that he was partly responsible for the difficulty of moving the takeout boxes. After all, in addition to what Shi Wei's assistant had ordered, there was also Cat Eyes' so-called flowing stone set. In order to show filial respect to his older sister and complete the task of visiting the set, he had bought another set. 2 sets of tea set, desserts, food box, and tea set cost more than 10,000 yuan. Without a doubt, this was the impulsive spending of a nouveau riche after his wallet was full. Director Xia did not care about the nouveau riche. He had seen many crazy fans who would throw money away for their idols. Luo Nan and the others were not the craziest. He just felt awkward. If this couple didn't cooperate and he took the wrong food, it would be hard for him to avoid being punished by Shi Wei. Plus, he did not forget that Shi Wei's lover was right behind him. Director Xia was a bit anxious. He saw that the security guards had already approached, so his voice grew louder. The tea and snacks were definitely ordered by Sister Wei. You two are going to forcefully steal them. 2 people come. Drag them out first. As he spoke, Director Xia moved back to give the security guards room to act. At the same time, he pondered whether or not he should contact Assistant Meng, who was by Shi Wei's side, and ask her about the details of the tea and snacks order. Young master, he clicked his tongue just as he exited the elevator. It's pretty ugly now that it's developed to the point of pulling and pulling. Director Xia hurriedly turned around. Young master, don't worry. We absolutely won't delay you and Sister Wei from drinking your morning tea. Hey you guys. Don't kick over the innermost food boxes. It was rare for him to take care of both sides and still be able to think clearly without a hint of chaos. And for the sake of expressing his importance, he drilled back into the elevator after the security guards restrained Luo Nan and Yu Qin. He bent over to pick up the 3 custom-made food boxes. Young master, his laughter came from behind him. He could hear that he was quite delighted. This proves one thing. People must live magnanimously. They must live properly. Otherwise, if you play the pig, you will fall into the dung pit. If you act cool, you will be struck by lightning. Director Xia hated himself for touching the food boxes. He bent over, unable to turn around and send out a sincere smile. But his mouth did not fall behind. He praised loudly, Young master, his words are truly incisive. He had just lifted the food box in the middle when a certain chain of logic in the depths of his brain suddenly snapped. He was unable to connect the cause and effect no matter what. Young master, his voice continued to enter his ears. That's right. It's this expression. Wait for me to record it and save it as evidence. Ye boss Luo, you chased stars behind my sister's back and hooked up with little girls. This is retribution. You must be bored. The cold and indifferent voice came from the young bastard. Director Xia ignored this sentence. The information in front of him really made him a bit dumbfounded. Sister? What sister? Director Xia maintained his bent posture and froze on the spot. However, his thoughts were like a kite that had lost its string. It spun crazily in the vortex and could not find its direction at all. In this chaotic state, Director Xia vaguely knew that the security guard he had called had retreated. Young master, his bodyguards and followers, who had exited the elevator earlier, had rushed in again. Due to the existence of the food box, the place to step was relatively tight. People were squeezed and people were pushed against each other. Director Xia bent over, so the area he occupied was a little large. Someone knocked on his spine twice. It was young master he. Stand up straight. Don't get in the way. Oh my god, I'm going to collapse. Director Xia did not know how his spine, which was as soft as noodles, was supported. When he straightened his body, he saw young master he smiling as he put his arm around the shoulder of the bastard fan. The latter was pushing him away with a cold expression. Young master, he was not annoyed at all. On the contrary, he laughed out loud. Don't mind me, don't mind me. I'm flattered that you brought tea and snacks for our Xiaowei. In the future, I will absolutely not create any obstruction between you and my sister. That's good enough, right? Such intimate words and body language made Director Xia's face turn into a bewitching neon rainbow in the red light district. It was ever-changing. In the end, it was completely cut off and turned into a patch of black ash. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. At this moment, years of social instincts dominated everything. Director Xia's face suddenly burst into a smile. Sorry. This. His instincts were still flawed. Director Xia's mind suddenly went blank. He had forgotten the surname of this most important person. Donglu kindly reminded him, call him Boss Luo. Don't look at his tender face. He's a ruthless character who can order my sister around. Hey, stop squeezing. Otherwise, if only one of us goes down, we won't be able to live. In an instant, almost everyone's gaze fell on Director Shaw's face. I don't want to live. I don't want to live. Chapter 458. He Donglu, temporarily unemployed, a vagrant. The elevator went up quickly. Young master, he introduced himself. He looked humorous, friendly and elegant. It was as if the scene of him hugging his shoulders and laughing strangely was all a dream. Hello, young master, he. Yuqin extended her hand and lightly shook He Donglu's hand. Luonan gave a simple introduction according to etiquette. Yuqin. Classmate. Actually, the relationship was a bit more complicated, but Luonan was disinclined to explain it to He Donglu. Hello, classmate. You have unlimited possibilities. He Donglu recovered his mischievous demeanor. However, he stopped there and didn't continue teasing. Didn't he step forward just now to control the situation? He absolutely couldn't let the dangerous person in front of him fly into a rage out of humiliation. Since they had appeared here, there was a high chance that they would continue to cross paths. He was here to amuse himself. There was no need for him to put himself in danger. Oh, and don't clash with the target. At this time, Yuqin's bracelet vibrated. It was Bai Yu and the others who were anxiously waiting at the elevator making a phone call. Yuqin didn't mention the conflict downstairs. She simply said a few words and hung up. He Donglu swept his eyes over the rapidly changing numbers on the panel. He said with a smile, "Many thanks, old bro. You personally brought the takeout. This is a great favor. I'll get Shiwei to toast you a few more cups later. If she has any good friends, I'll introduce them to you first." Luonan responded in a lukewarm tone. It was just in passing. No need to be polite. Though Luonan said this, he still gave He Donglu a few more glances. After all, it was gossip about an A-list celebrity. He had just read it with Bai Yu. Even if Shiwei was an A-lister, she would not have the guts to cheat in front of young Master Kong Tianhe. This was probably the legendary, changing the scene. The atmosphere in the elevator became a lot more natural. He Donglu pointed at the food boxes on the floor and said with a smile, "Then old bro, who are you visiting? Look at this amount, tsk. Isn't this too much of a philanthropist? I, your brother, am willing to admit defeat." Luonan didn't beat around the bush. "My cousin's band is performing tonight. There are also a few new friends I've made." He Donglu was very surprised. "Ah, then I really have to support you. Her band is Xianxia. She just signed a contract with Ming Tang. She's not that famous." He Donglu's brows jumped. "Just signed? At this time?" Luonan's gaze was focused. "Is there something wrong? Brother, it seems like your sensitivity is not high enough. Don't you know which company owns Ming Tang Culture?" He Donglu didn't intentionally leave him hanging. He quickly answered his own question. The Ancient Castle Financial Group, the Blood Flame Order. He purposely lowered his voice when he said the last word, creating a perfect atmosphere. Ding dong. The elevator reached the 56th floor. The atmosphere lightened a bit, but He Donglu was able to see Luonan's tightly furrowed brows as he wished. He spread his hands. "So you understand? Speaking of which box is Shiwei's? I'll just bring it over." "The middle." Luonan responded subconsciously. "Ah, thanks a lot." Speaking of which, He Donglu was quite ostentatious. Apart from the old driver bodyguard that Wang Yao had seen in Ocean Sky Cloud City, there were still 5 or 6 attendants. Naturally, there were people taking his place at this time. The elevator door opened and He Donglu walked out with a beaming smile. In the next moment, his eyes lit up. Hey, didn't I say that Ming Tang's resources aren't bad? You guys are that long-legged good-looking group? What's your name again? All the members of BHD were gathered outside the lift. Originally, he was waiting for his family's pastries and snacks. Who would have thought that when the elevator opened, a playboy would come out? They couldn't help but be a bit stupefied. Luckily, the housekeeper Shui Yuan was well-trained. She counted to 3, then the 3 sisters bowed at the same time with a smile. "Oh, we are BHD." He Donglu chuckled. His playboy temperament flared up. He instinctively reached out his hand, wanting to touch the face of Clara, the most good-looking of them all. But his hand was halfway there when he felt an inexplicable chill on his back. He cursed inwardly and could only lift it up. He tidied his own hair and turned around. "There are quite a few people here in Mingtang that I like. I suddenly have an idea. Brother, let's join hands. We can talk about the capital operation. I'll give you 20% of the shares. You just need to help me grasp the timing and see when it's good to strike the bottom. Luo Nan stared at him. Tian Bang is a member of your military. He's even in the Coastal Defense Force. Tian Bang isn't that vulgar. As for me, my position in the He family isn't that high. You, on the other hand, can ask my sister and your secretary about the progress. He Donglu extended his hands and bumped fists. Our appetites aren't that big. Even if they beat our brains out, it won't hinder us from picking up girls. Earning money. Luo Nan shut his mouth and didn't say anything. He didn't feel like continuing this topic. He Donglu shrugged his shoulders and turned around very straightforwardly. Thank you again. Come back and have some tea later. At that moment he led a group of bodyguards and followers and swaggered away. Luo Nan stared at Luo Nan's back. He felt that Luo Nan seemed to be close to him, but Luo Nan's mouth was full of lies. Luo Nan was filled with dissatisfaction towards Luo Nan. This was very normal. With He Donglu's family background, there was absolutely no need for him to stick his face to an ability user. Not to mention that night at Ocean Sky Cloud City, when this person was being domineering, when he was forcefully suppressed by He Yuan. Kitty. Any man would feel aggrieved after such an experience. Wouldn't it be a joke if they became the worst friend the second time they met? He Donglu seemed to have noticed Luo Nan's line of sight. He turned his head and waved at Luo Nan before he turned the corner. His smile was brilliant. After entering the passageway corridor, He Donglu's smile didn't change. He pressed the secret communication button on his wristband to talk to the bodyguard beside him. Speaking of which, how about me and that kid's older sister go for a while? It should be easy to play rock and roll. What's this called? Courtesy demands reciprocity. Don't you learn this from my sister? The bodyguard didn't want to get involved in this topic, but out of professional considerations he still responded. Right now he has a security team by his side. We have people in there. Holy crap. Old C, when did you become sinister? Luo Nan has always been a target that the military has been trying to control. It was Miss Yin who arranged for people to be placed there. It was for protection and for precaution. He Donglu said unhappily, I know that this fellow is very dangerous. But can't you be a bit more straightforward with your words? The bodyguard, Old C, organized his words before saying, Luo Nan in the inner world has the highest evaluation of AB+. In the military's evaluation he has an A, and in the judgment of the Xia city government he has a red, meaning that he is extremely dangerous. Hold on. He Donglu interrupted Old C's words. He was a bit annoyed. The military and the government's judgments are out? When did this happen? Why are they still being raised? Just last week. Old C explained seriously. In terms of individual combat strength, Luo Nan's performance isn't all that outstanding. There are plenty of people in this world who can suppress him. But the key problem lies in the fact that he relies on tools like the Flying Devil Ray. He is an infrasonic array that can move at will. His destructive power towards civilians and conventional troops is comparable to that of extraordinaries. In addition to his unfathomable and profound level of mental senses and his young and emotional mental state, his degree of threat within Xia City and its surrounding regions has nothing to do with distance, interpersonal relationships or division of power. Therefore I suggest that young master he should maintain a distance with him in front of and behind of people. Old C wanted to say, distance with this last sentence, but he felt that it was ambiguous. He hesitated for a moment before changing his words. Chapter 459. Discretion. Old C's words had more or less bruised He Donglu's self-esteem. He grinned. Isn't he relying on that devil ray? How about this? I'll buy it and take it home to steam and braise it. Of course these were words spoken out of anger. However, Old C's reply gave him another blow. The Xia City branch has already purchased that Flying Devil Ray last week. It's just that it's being nurtured there. This is an important reason why the city government and the general staff have updated their judgment. Motherf asterisk cur. Leaving it there is disgusting? He Donglu sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew very well that the Xia City branch was fishing in this manner. They were fishing specifically for big fish like him who harbored evil intentions. As for purchasing it in advance, it was even more reasonable. Of course the Xia City branch was happy to see a threatening and intimidating existence comparable to an extraordinary. especially since Luonan was still so young, easy to control and easy to train. This favor was enough to make the kid shed tears of gratitude for several years. Oh, looking at the time, it just so happens to be after Tianbang's torment. Humph, using an A-rank dangerous individual to offset the impact of the incident and return to the old balance of power. He Donglu curled his lips. Fully joining the special power of the ability user organization, maintaining the dynamic balance between the military and the capital power, and allowing the entire society to maintain its upward force like a bamboo dragonfly. Isn't this the ideal state of the extraordinary era that my sister wishes for? If she wants to do politics, then what is she doing outside? No matter what her background is, she is now surnamed He. She is of the blood of the He family. As long as she makes up her mind, she will fight her way through the military. Perhaps the Air Force will be hers in the future. It's better than letting someone else take over. Old C spoke softly, using the extraordinary as the handle, using the military and the capital power as the rotor. Even though the power is meager, it is enough to allow civilization to rise in the sea of stars and stand alone in the universe. What did you say? He Donglu didn't hear it too clearly. Old C shook his head, returning to the bodyguard's usual silence. He Donglu had already arrived at the door of the suite. He pressed the doorbell, but then he thought of something. Everyone says that kid's sensing ability is super strong. At this distance, it's most likely possible. But the door to the suite opened. He Donglu had a belly full of anger. He directly bypassed Assistant Meng and went inside. Shi Wei was bored to death in the living room. When she saw He Donglu suddenly appear, she couldn't help but burst into a pleasantly surprised smile. Next, she lightly hugged him with Western etiquette. If it were in the past, He Donglu might have directly made his move. But now, when he thought of the pair of incorporeal eyes watching his every move, he couldn't help but feel apprehensive. After a light hug, they separated. Attendant number 1 took advantage of this moment to place the auspicious Abundance Restaurant's custom-made food box on the tea table. He Donglu pursed his lips. I ran into a little demon running errands on the road, so I brought it over for you. These words were meant for someone to hear. His mouth was taking advantage, but He Donglu was actually depressed in his heart. The worst part about dealing with an ability user like Luonan was this. As long as the core of Luonan's power wasn't truly shaken, then Luonan could forget about taking any substantial advantage. Luonan would have to risk being killed at any time. Shi Wei kissed him lightly on the corner of his lips. Let's have morning tea together. What do you want to eat? Shark's fin, He Donglu responded expressionlessly. Shi Wei was stunned. He Donglu couldn't help but sigh in despair when he thought about the sudden change in the program he was currently arranging. He patted Shi Wei's slender waist and sat down on the sofa. He closed his eyes and rested. Shi Wei was an A-list female star in the outside world. She had countless fans, but in front of a young master like He Donglu, she still very consciously put herself in the position of a canary. She obediently opened the food box, preparing to brew tea to receive He Donglu. Attendant number 1 took the opportunity to take credit for his performance. Young Master He, I'm going to go connect with old Sha and organize the information. Then there won't be a day for the event. Halfway through his words, he saw He Donglu suddenly open his eyes and stare coldly at him. It was as if he was looking at an idiot or even a dead man. Ho! Young Master He? He Donglu wanted to throw something at him, but when he saw the pillow on the sofa, he felt that this fellow was taking advantage of him. He could only grit his teeth and say, it's already 100 years of the Information Society. You still need to run to the scene when doing a project. Don't think that I don't know what you guys are thinking. Go. Don't stay here. Attendant number 1 had a stupefied look on his face. He Donglu let out a long sigh. His head and shoulders leaned back on the sofa. He was too lazy to speak again. This was another reason why he hated ability users. They completely exceeded the limits of a normal person's thinking. As long as they were willing, perhaps there were no secrets in this world to speak of. At this time, He Donglu looked at his attendants and felt vexed. He couldn't say anything. He could only wave his hand. I'm going to rest. Get lost. Hurry up and get lost. The attendants were at a loss of what to do. Did he want them to do something? Or was it something else? He Donglu became more and more worried when he saw the ignorant appearances of this group of people. He was truly worried that this group of people would speak without restraint once they left the door. They would spill everything about that matter. If some unforeseen event were to happen, then he could forget about raising his head in the circle of Xia City in the future. Old C, I'll stay at Shiwei's place for a while. I'll give you a vacation. Bring them downstairs. Get some exercise. Young Master He. You don't need to worry about safety. With a certain someone here, if something were to happen to me, would he still have the face to see my sister? He Donglu had really gone all out. He had to hide that matter no matter what. He then sent a text message to Old C, teaching him how to explain things to his attendants. Just like this, aside from He Donglu, the group of people came in majestically. They left with their heads and faces covered in dirt. They were all baffled. They turned out of the passageway and just happened to bump into Luo Nan and the long-legged good-looking guy. They were carrying food containers and were just entering room 5621. Normally, the group of attendants would certainly say a few flowery words, but right now they were in no mood at all. Don't forget that Old C was still watching silently from the side. Boss Luo, who made He Donglu look at him in a different light, was right in front of him. They were able to be He Donglu's long-term attendants. At the very least, they had the eyesight to keep their mouths shut and speak less. This was the best choice they could make. Old C nodded toward Luo Nan in greeting. The attendants copied him one after another, and the two groups brushed shoulders. Who are these people? Bai Yu had question marks on her head. She saw them come out from the sealed passageway, and behind them was the only luxurious suite on this floor. Her eyes were filled with sparks of gossip. She turned her head and saw that Luo Nan was deep in thought. He didn't respond, so she turned her gaze to her best friend. Xianxia, you just came up with them. Yu Qin's elegant eyebrows furrowed slightly. She bit her lower lip, unwittingly biting it until it turned white. If she didn't do this, she wouldn't be able to suppress the trembling that suddenly erupted within her body. The source of the stimulation wasn't He Donglu. It was Luo Nan who was beside her. Her sensitivity in this area far surpassed everyone else present. She was able to more or less guess the answer from the limited information such as He Donglu's surname, the military, and so on. Only now did she discover that her evaluation of Luo Nan's status had actually increased. It was raised to a nearly untouchable level. This made her a bit at a loss as to what to do. Therefore, she didn't hear Bai Yu's question at all. He just walked straight in. Shui Yuan and Clara did the same. Bai Yu still couldn't get an answer. She couldn't help but pat Luo Nan's arm. Why are you all so mysterious? Boss Luo, who in the world was that guy? He had a cheeky smile on his face and he seemed to be Sister Weiwei's boyfriend. Luo Nan could only chuckle when he saw her expectant gaze, ready to receive some gossip at any time. He carried the two flowing stone-set food boxes into the room, but he had second thoughts. It wasn't good to leave these refreshments for too long. He should go take a look at Moya's place. He turned around and was about to leave, but Bai Yu had already grabbed the food boxes like a lackey. Boss, Bai Xiaoyu is here to serve you. I don't need you. Luo Nan wanted to take the food boxes from Bai Yu's hands, but this little girl nimbly dodged to the side. He rammed through the door first. Clearly, he wouldn't be able to get a reply from the food boxes if he didn't bring out a sufficient amount of gossip. Cat Eyes, who hadn't left the room this entire time, chuckled twice. But she didn't say anything that would make Luo Nan feel even more embarrassed for the sake of the expensive flowing stone set. Luo Nan shook his head and left the room. Bai Yu stood outside with her head held high and her chest puffed out. She assumed the posture of an orderly soldier. Give it to me. Bai Yu put the food boxes behind her back. She looked like she was dying. I just wanted to ask and satisfy my curiosity. The identity of Sister Weiwei's boyfriend is a huge piece of gossip. Don't worry. I absolutely won't post it on the internet. So if I don't mess around this time, you'll turn around and post it on the internet? Luo Nan discovered that he had underestimated Bai Yu's gossipy nature. He found it harder and harder to spit it out. Just as he was about to say something, the door to room 5621 opened. Yu Qin stood at the door and spoke softly, Boss, do you need help? Don't tell me you can help hold Bai Yu down? Luo Nan waved his hand. Go rest. Yu Qin didn't say much. Her gaze lingered on Luo Nan's face for a moment. Then she bowed and retreated behind the door, gently closing it. Bai Yu finally saw the subtlety of the relationship between the two when she saw this scene. Xianxia has such an arrogant temperament. Why is she so docile and obedient to you? What I mean is. Luo Nan was pondering over how to deal with this little gossip bug when he sensed something. Manager Shaw, whose face could emit neon lights, had already come up in the elevator. She was headed for Shiwei, but she saw Luo Nan and Baiyu messing around here when she turned the corner. Clearly she jumped in fright. She hid on the other side of the corner, sneakily observing. Luo Nan's thoughts spun in succession. He combined this with He Donglo's strange behavior and couldn't help but have a few more thoughts. He looked at Baiyu. The words that came out of his mouth had a subtle change. It's because of her family's company. This was an unexpected answer. Baiyu couldn't understand it at all. Luo Nan revealed the truth of the matter. Her brother stole a woman and offended me. He's afraid that the company will go bankrupt, so. Are you serious? Baiyu seemed to be listening to a novel. Luo Nan shrugged. In any case, Yu Jing isn't a smart person, right? Luo Nan felt that it was very interesting to see Baiyu's adorable expression. He suddenly had an impulse and reached out to pat her cheek. Baiyu stood there stupidly. Her eyes swiveled a few times before she suddenly cried out, "Manager Shaw." Her voice lingered in the air as she slammed into the door with the food box in hand. She was like a scurrying little rabbit. Chapter 460. Baiyu rushed through the door and nearly bumped into Clara. What stopped them were the two large food boxes in front of them. Bang! Both of their arms were numb from the shock. What are you doing? The two spoke in unison. Clara switched the hand holding the food boxes and gently flipped her hair. I can't let the seniors wait too long. I'm going to deliver the food. Baiyu curled her lips. Seniors? Which seniors are you talking about? Your popularity really makes my heart beat like a drum. Free. Why did you come back? Where's Radish Silk? If you bring the Flowing Stone kit back, what will he use to visit? So stupid. Baiyu scolded herself. Her voice dropped an octave in an instant. Butcher. Butcher is outside. Baiyu turned her head as she spoke. She saw that there was no sound outside. Only then did she realize, oh no. That guy must have been caught. Baiyu wanted to open the door and go outside, but she was grabbed by Shui Yuan, who rushed up from behind. Then she turned on the security visual system. Within the visual range of the system, the hallway was empty. Not a single figure could be seen. Not a single voice could be heard. Where's he? Maybe he was dragged to the security office? He's not a thief. But. Yeah, that's true. Though she said this, Baiyu thought of Luo Nan's fingers slapping his face twice. The warm touch seemed to have lingered for quite some time. Her face was a bit hot, but she couldn't help but worry. Would he really not be treated as a thief? I'll go out and check things out. Clara adjusted her breathing and raised her morale. Is that okay? Shui Yuan couldn't make up her mind. She turned to look at the others. Yu Qin, who had been following Luo Nan closely, was in a daze for some reason. Teacher Cat Eyes, who had the highest status here, was drinking tea with a smile. She didn't care about anything else. Shui Yuan seemed to realize something when she saw this scene. There seems to be no problem? Clara didn't care at all. I have a valid reason. Though she said this, she still used the visual system to carefully check the situation outside. Only then did she open the door and go out. Baiyu wanted to follow, but the image of Luo Nan's finger just now flashed in her mind. After hesitating for a moment, he was already a few steps behind. His courage instantly dropped. He could only stick his head out from the crack of the door and watch Kerala pass through many doors until she reached the corner of the corridor, and then stay there. After a while, Clara held the food box and bowed. Oh, Director Shaw. It's over. After that, Clara, who had turned a corner, had obviously taken a big detour. She was practically sticking close to the base of the wall to escape. It was obvious that Manager Shaw was still there. As for why he was staying there, the answer was very obvious. A few seconds later, Clara sent a message. Don't come over, the butcher's smile is so scary. Baiyu immediately replied, where is Boss Luo? Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. After that, there was nothing else. Baiyu stared blankly at the message for quite some time. In the end, her body felt weak as she leaned her head against the door. She was extremely depressed. See, my reaction just now was too extreme. Why would I run? Almost at the same time, Manager Shaw wanted to cry too. Why did I overreact like that? He stuck close to the base of the wall. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to stand steadily. The smile on his face had long stiffened, but he didn't dare to change. The child in front of him looked to be 15 or 16 years old. He wasn't as tall as him and he didn't have a fierce expression on his face. On the contrary, he looked a little wooden. Yet he felt an unreasonable amount of pressure. Even if he was up against the big boss of Mingtang culture, he wouldn't be so indecisive. It was Clara's passing by that gave him a chance to catch his breath. Finally, his brain started to work. It was obvious that Boss Luo had a good relationship with the BHD group. Was she his target? According to his many years of experience when it came to relationships between men and women, a teenager would be confused, thirsty and possessive. Hence they would be relatively complicated. Apart from those who matured early, most teenagers would be impulsive and wouldn't have a particularly heavy taste. But to be involved in multiple targets at the same time, if he wasn't a veteran, who else could be? But he didn't look like one. Was he good at disguising himself? The type that liked to play around with people's feelings? But the way he flirted with her wasn't like that at all. Manager Xia felt that he was really in a dilemma. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that, with his usual style of doing things, he would be so blind as to offend the son-in-law of Kong Tianhe. Of course, this was just a description. No matter what, Boss Luo was definitely the kind of person he couldn't afford to offend. Since he had done something stupid, he had to make up for it. What could he use to make up for it? He could only use his old profession. As a department manager of an entertainment company, he had many resources that ordinary people were envious of. But compared to a wealthy family like Kong Tianhe, it was a joke. The other party used him for fun. Otherwise, with just a thought, they could turn him into ashes with just a puff of air. Fun was the key word in everything. The best resource he had was none other than the banquet that was going to be organized soon. It was a carnival created by the libertines in the entertainment circle. There were some mysterious elements in it, and it had always been one of the most high-end symbols in the relevant circles. If Boss Luo liked this kind of thing, it would be ideal to do him a favor at little cost. But he still had some rationality left in him. Thousands of people had thousands of faces and thousands of desires. For an old driver who had crisscrossed the entertainment circle, a pool of wine and a forest of meat was what he wanted. But for a beginner who had just stepped into the field of love, he might even feel that it was dirty. There was a high chance that a hasty connection would backfire on one's clever plan before one could fully understand Boss Luo's background. Manager Xia had already thought things through. He would use Haijing, Younghe and many other channels to carefully inquire about Boss Luo. He would make plans after comprehensive consideration. But no matter what, he never thought that a terrible encounter would push him to the edge of the cliff. He watched helplessly as Luo Nan walked over. There was a distance of over 20 meters from room 5621 to the corner of the corridor. He had around 10 seconds to ponder over a countermeasure. But during this time, Manager Xia's mind was a field of blankness. It was as if a blackboard eraser had been used to erase the clever tricks that had been cultivated in the entertainment company for decades. It was a complete mess. After meeting Boss Luo, there seemed to be no other effective methods other than repeatedly apologizing and begging. But look at what this Boss Luo said. You didn't do anything wrong. I really did go through the back door. But I really am not some Saising fan. I just happened to run into Haijing, so I asked him for a favor. I came in to visit. You can go find him to confirm things. Is there something wrong with my brain? Why would I go and confirm things? Manager Xia was 120% sure that he had already offended this Boss Luo to the point of death. Otherwise, why would Boss Luo bother talking to him when he had already flipped the cards? Wasn't Boss Luo enjoying the pleasure of playing with a mouse? Perhaps this seemingly pure and good-natured youth was a psychopath. He had a disguised social personality. Normally, he would bring out this seemingly pure and good-natured personality to socialize with others. But in his heart he enjoyed the pleasure of toying with the entire society. Yes. It was like this. Right now, the oxygen content in Manager Xia's brain was no longer enough to support his deeper research and judgment. Grasping onto a seemingly reasonable judgment was like grasping onto a life-saving straw. He didn't consider at all that this was an ideal result that he had pushed all the way with his only high-level resources. It was a low-end application of the high-end functions of the human brain. He was deceiving himself. Please wait a moment. Manager Xia ignored Luo Nan's strange gaze. He operated on his wristband in a flurry. But the more anxious and flustered he was, the easier it was for him to make mistakes. He tossed and turned until he was drenched in sweat, but he didn't succeed. This time Luonan was truly curious. "What are you doing?" Manager Sha's operation appeared to be very complicated, and his authority requirements were extremely high. There were a few times where he even had to test his breathing, heartbeat and so on. It seemed that he was trying to shield himself from abnormal states such as being under duress. Sweat dripped from Manager Sha's forehead. He wanted to explain, but he couldn't find an entry point for the time being. Right when he was about to die, he suddenly saw Boss Luo turn his head and frown. "Whose room is room 5605? What? Oh, please wait a moment. I'll check." Manager Sha had a bitter expression on his face. He was just about to switch to the verification interface when a light suddenly flashed in his mind. The relevant memories came back. Slonlin. The high-quality idol that the company has nurtured for the past 2 years. High-quality idol. Right now, Luonan's mental senses had already covered room 5605. He saw this high-quality idol using his skillful and masterful techniques that could be used as teaching material to tease Clara, who had just delivered his takeout. If it wasn't for his companion coming out from the cubicle, Luonan would probably be in room 5605, reenacting the teaching video from room 5627. Not even an hour had passed and the male lead hadn't changed, but the female lead had changed. Moreover, the quality was top-notch. Luonan admired him. "Your company is really capable of producing people." Luonan was really worried about Moya's prospects after signing with Mingtang Culture. Even though the rumors said that all the entertainment companies under the heavens were black-hearted, the feeling of seeing it with one's own eyes was always different. 2 seconds later, Clara escaped from room 5605 in a sorry state. However, the blush on her cheeks proved that she had indeed been teased. This was even more conspicuous on her milky white skin. She was distracted the entire way. She actually forgot that Manager Sha was blocking her way. Only when she reached the middle of the corridor did she see that there was no longer a large food container. She was truly at a loss on what to do. Luckily, Clara's mental fortitude was a bit stronger than Bai Yu's. She only froze for half a second before revealing a perfect, sweet smile. She instinctively flipped her blonde hair and greeted Luonan with her best female charm. She covered herself by sticking to the wall and slipping away. Luonan watched her leave. He was deep in thought. New evidence obtained. Manager Sha secretly clenched her fists. There was no need to mention the female companion who had delivered the takeout with her. First there was Bai Yu. Now there was Clara. This boss Luo had given her an extraordinary amount of attention. Moreover, he had done it very clearly. How did this disguised personality's acting suddenly become so bad? Chapter 461. Manager Sha fell deeper and deeper into the trap of his own logic, but he felt the entire world brighten up. In his days he actually felt a sense of accomplishment of grasping the pearl of wisdom. He even took the initiative to probe. "Boss Luo, are you familiar with the BHD group? I like them quite a bit." Luonan had learned these words from He Donglu. He spoke very casually, but Manager Sha was moved to tears. He had finally found a seemingly reliable entry point. With a topic of conversation and a familiar field, Manager Sha's breathing and heartbeat gradually calmed down. At the same time he began to do his best. Although this girl group is a bit more experimental in nature, they actually have a lot of potential. Their singing, dancing, and appearance are top-notch among the few batches of people the company has nurtured. The rarest thing is that they have quite a bit of character. They aren't simply selling their public personas. They don't have any particular weaknesses aside from their small number. If they have a character like Boss Luo supporting them in the future, it would be hard for them not to become famous. Luonan's gaze returned to Manager Sha's face. He felt like he was looking at a brothel keeper with a silver tongue. Manager Sha responded with a humble smile. Or should he say that everything went smoothly? Once he found the right path, even the verification that he couldn't get through would be no problem. Manager Sha let out a breath of relief, but he raised his mind. This was a gamble. He struggled a few times in his mind, but he finally gritted his teeth and got to the point. "Boss Luo, I had eyes but failed to recognize them Tai. You can scold me if you want. Speaking of which, my position is low and my eye sockets are shallow. I nearly missed out on a character like you. You are a magnanimous person. You will certainly give me a chance to make up for it." Luo Nan looked at him coldly, not saying a word. Manager Xia summoned up what little courage he had left. He raised his left hand, doing his best to stop it from trembling. A virtual screen lit up, displaying the words "Invitation Privileges." This privilege identification code is an entrance ticket to an event. I know that it's easy for Boss Luo to go to this sort of place, but the channels are different. The resources you enjoy are different as well. Luo Nan didn't immediately take it. He just responded absent-mindedly, "Is this the one he Dong Lu wants to torment?" It had to be said that torment was an excellent word. Manager Xia nodded incessantly. Luo Nan chuckled, "Your resources are just these before your eyes. I know that BHD is led by Haijing. Of course there's also Mountain Creek." Manager Xia was a bit surprised. Boss Luo knows Mountain Creek? Yeah, the lead singer and drummer are impressive. The lead singer Moya and the drummer Shui Yi were two great beauties. Moreover, they were the domineering type. They were not old, but they were quite philanthropic. Manager Xia didn't care about anything else. He made promises and the like. No problem at all. Really? Haijing is very protective of Xianxia, right? You know that too? Manager Xia was really excited. To tell you the truth, there will be a major change in the company in the near future. Whether or not Haijing can keep its rice bowl is still uncertain. Halfway through his sentence, his heart suddenly stopped. Wait, what am I saying? This Boss Luo is obviously related to Haijing. He is most likely an acquaintance. Am I crazy? Luo Nan's voice entered her ears during her moment of panic and bewilderment. Is Mrs. Halder really going to withdraw completely? When these words entered his ears, Manager Xia shuddered again. Not only did this Boss Luo know about the financial group behind Mingtang culture, he even called Madame Halder by her name. It must be known that he was a mid-level employee of a subsidiary company. It was only by chance that he found out about the true background of the financial group and the name of the true big boss. Even if Madame Halder's influence in Xia City was like a faded flower, knowing was knowing and her attitude was still this casual. This was F***king level. Manager Xia's entire body was trembling. Excitement and fear coexisted. Under the surging emotions, the worries that had just leaped out as well as the thoughts and consciousness that he couldn't figure out were all drowned out. His thoughts grew more and more fuzzy. He really wanted to have a good chat with Boss Luo. Unfortunately, this sort of matter wasn't something he could comment on. Right now he could only smile foolishly. Luo Nan scanned the words on the virtual screen once more. Finally he raised his hand. Manager Xia was instantly struck with happiness when she saw this action. She wanted to move her hand over, but her arm was stiff. She could only use her other hand to support herself and carefully stick her wristbands together. Half a second later, the screen of Luo Nan's wristband lit up, revealing a classic DNA double helix structure diagram. Soon, the double helix structure scattered into thousands of meaningless numbers, piecing back together to form a disc-shaped diagram. 3 seconds later it faded away. Manager Xia stared fixedly at the screen of Luo Nan's wristband. She let out a long sigh of relief when she saw the garbled diagram appear. She subconsciously groaned, then laughed in spite of herself. It's past. It's past. Luo Nan's face was expressionless the entire time, but his ears jumped a few times. The hexa-ear hidden deep within his ear canal transmitted a message the moment the screen of his wristband lit up. It was the intelligent voice of the Psychic Wave Network. Serial number 5357, it has been detected that there is an external reading operation on your social privileges record. The operator is the SCA Supercomputer Level 2 AI, Rank 9. According to the confidentiality regulations, priority is given to data protection. During the protection period you can choose 1. Unblock after detecting the danger level. 2. Perform multiple levels of encryption. 3. Carry out data camouflage. All of your operations will be recorded in a copy for future review. If the selected operation is forcefully terminated, please contact the relevant person in charge. The intelligent voice ended and the verification happened to pass. Luo Nan shook his hand as if he had gained something. Outsourcing verification services to the SCA. This is quite a high-end atmosphere. A thought flashed through his mind and his gaze shifted to meet Manager Xia's. He nodded lightly. You've worked hard. 2 minutes later, the door to room 5621 opened, and Luo Nan walked in with his head lowered. Bai Yu immediately leaped up and asked, "You're back. Are you all right? Did he make things difficult for you?" "What? Butcher. Did Manager Sha do anything to you?" Luo Nan shook his head. "He just wanted to know the ins and outs of the situation. He didn't make things difficult for me knowing that Brother Haijing brought me in." When the three members of the BHD group heard this reply, their eyes had the expression, "Keep bragging." Bai Yu wanted to ask more questions, but she was pulled back by Shui Yuan. She whispered, "Since it's already in the past, don't get to the bottom of it. There's no harm in asking." Clara pulled her back as well. "Men care about their faces. What if we get lectured?" "No, since we already got lectured, it would hurt our pride to talk about it." Bai Yu turned her head and saw that Luo Nan had returned. He found a corner and sat down. His head was lowered and he had a rather dejected appearance. She hesitated for a moment and finally decided to change the topic. "Hey, didn't you want to go visit them? They're busy right now." Luo Nan used his mental senses to observe the progress of Moya and the others' practice as he conversed with Manager Sha. He knew that the rare resting window had already passed. He could only wait for the next one. It was almost lunchtime. Luo Nan continued to lower his head after dealing with Bai Yu. Actually, most of his attention was still locked onto Manager Sha. Manager Sha's life sketch was dim and lightless in comparison within the resplendent living starry sky. Its structure was very simple. It was nothing more than a few lines of starlight. However, if one focused on it and continued to permeate it, one would be able to see a bit more information. In a certain sense, the life sketch was just a window leading to the mysteries of the body and mind of others. One needed to do further observation and the corresponding coding and decoding work in order to obtain more detailed information. The Wraith sign was an expert in this field. It was a demon that specialized in peeking at the minds and minds of others. Its incomparably powerful instincts were enough for it to do many inconceivable things. In comparison, even though Luo Nan had gone through a period of study and grasped some basic knowledge of the mental side, what he could do was very limited. However, Manager Sha was an ordinary person. His abilities were overflowing, right? Right now, Manager Sha was in a bit of a daze. He walked in the hallway swaying back and forth. He bumped into a few people who greeted him along the way, but they were at a loss. His mental state was quite bad. The mental attack just now interfered with the material plane. It squeezed the outer medial temporal lobe of the hippocampus and part of the cortex. There shouldn't be any problems with the operation. Papercut said that this method can destroy the target's short-term memory. Could it be that the attack process was too intense and the aftermath damaged the hippocampus? Maybe I should have used interference from the beginning, blocking the nerve signals. Luo Nan slowly pondered over Manager Sha's current state in conjunction with his life sketch. His goal was very simple. He wanted to obtain more information from this person while preventing others from discovering anything strange, exposing his existence and inclination. Right now, the ones who were more likely to obstruct his goal were undoubtedly He Donglu and his group. Since they were all in this building, Luo Nan reluctantly monitored them for a period of time. Just like right now. The bodyguard Old C, whom he had met once before, had returned. According to his current pace, he could just meet Manager Sha face to face. Manager Sha was currently in a dazed mental state. How could he hide from others? Turn a corner. Luo Nan's consciousness probed through the window, giving Manager Sha a new stimulation. Manager Sha was still muddle-headed. He just subconsciously moved his legs, took 2 quick steps and circled around the corner. The elevator door opened and Old C walked out. The long corridor was completely empty. He didn't detect anything out of the ordinary. He hurried to the room where He Donglu was residing. On the way, Old C passed by a corner that a certain someone had taken a step ahead of him. It was just that he didn't notice it. Manager Sha stood blankly behind the soundproof door in the corner, facing the empty room. How did I get here? Manager Sha blinked his eyes. He just felt dizzy as if he had just experienced a nightmare. That's right. He really did experience a nightmare in the elevator. Hey, what happened next? It seemed like it was resolved. Room 5621. Luo Nan's head was still lowered as he looked at his open palm. His naturally slightly curled 5 fingers gently gathered the air, but he seemed to be able to feel some sort of marvelous tension. It was like he was gathering an incorporeal soul. The information that came from Manager Sha's life sketch was scattered and subtle. It involved consciousness, memories, emotions, and many other most precise and complex functions. And all of this was in the palm of his hand, allowing him to fiddle with it. Chapter 462. Luonan had never used this much strength on an ordinary person before. The information Luonan had gathered was quite complicated, but he was confident that he could weave a set of memories that had never existed for Manager Xia within a day or two if he were to continue experimenting layer by layer. As for whether it was logical or not, it depended on the ability of the director and screenwriter and nothing else. If this method was used in actual combat, it would probably be the legendary illusion technique. He remembered that he had heard of a similar method in his supplementary lessons. He just didn't know if it would still be effective against an ability user. Aside from Manager Xia, there was another group of people that Luonan was paying attention to. See Donglo's attendants A, B, C, D, maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4? Anyway, the bodyguard didn't look like a bodyguard and the driver didn't look like a driver. They were dressed very casually and looked like artists. In the end, Luonan was able to guess 30 to 50% of what they were here for, combined with Manager Xia's description. That group of people had already been brought downstairs by Old C, out of the Tonghui building and away from the plaza area. At this time they were already 10 kilometers away, a straight line distance of about 12,000 meters. Such a distance had indeed exceeded the radius of Luonan's omnidirectional observation of the material plane. However, if they were to start from the living starry sky and lock onto the target to carry out a partial detection, it was still too early. It wouldn't be a problem for them to travel another 10 kilometers. Luonan was certain that Manager Xia would not be able to dig up anything new for the time being, so he split a portion of his energy to lock onto this group of people. The group of followers were ordered to keep their mouths shut by Old C, and all of them were confused and depressed. Now that they had finally reached the so-called safe distance, how could they hold it in any longer? They all opened their mouths and laughed. Luonan was unable to listen for a time, so he simply activated the Hexier's response transfer function to record all of this information. He would sort it out later. Now he was more concerned about the consciousness, memories, and emotions of these followers. The lackeys were all ordinary people like Manager Xia. Luonan rarely studied these subjects due to various considerations in the past. Even if he did observe them, he would do so in a way that would not affect the target's normal life. However, through his experiments with Manager Xia, he realized that there was quite a bit of knowledge in this, especially when compared to ability users. He could see even more subtleties. Manager Xia was the first experimental subject, and these people could be considered experimental subjects 2, 3, 4, and 5. They could gather information and conduct research on the mental side at the same time. Luonan pondered deeply. He used the external neuron to open the built-in software. He created a new notebook and prepared to make some experimental records. At this moment, someone patted his knee. "Can you raise your head? You're not going to cry, are you?" Baiyu half knelt in front of Luonan. She moved her head closer. She was both concerned and gossipy, but this little girl clearly didn't realize what it meant to go overboard. Doll. The team leader of the Snow Garden Academy felt a sense of responsibility as he grabbed Baiyu by the neck and dragged her back. Clara came over to help and whispered in her ear, "What are you talking about? Stop, stop, stop. I'm dying." Baiyu was strangled to the point where her eyes rolled back. Her two legs kicked wildly and she was caught off guard. She kicked the high heel on her right foot away, sending it flying straight for Luonan's skull. "Aye!" The BHD group cried out in alarm. And in the next instant Luonan reached out with his hand. 3 fingers grasped the back edge of the shoe, leaving only his index finger to hook. He straightened his arm and pulled away. At the same time he raised his head and looked at the trio who were huddled together. "No athlete's foot, right? Impossible." Baiyu's face immediately turned red. She didn't know where she got the strength to break free from her team leader's grip. She hopped over on one foot and snatched the shoe away. But because she used too much strength, she nearly bumped into Luonan. She had to use her elbow to support herself against the wall in order to maintain her balance. In this position, if Luonan were to straighten his back a bit, his head would likely bump into her rather large chest. And if he were to remain motionless, his gaze would be level, and he would be able to see the snow-white waist exposed by the stretch of her back. There was also the waistline of her vest. Luonan felt a bit of envy. He had been cultivating with Gym Master Xiu for a period of time, and he had received the reverse nourishment of soul strength. His body was strong and tenacious, far surpassing that of an ordinary person. However, the internal cultivation technique did not focus on the sculpting of muscles. He had yet to train into a clear line of abdominal muscles. He still looked thin and weak on the surface. Bai Yu was young and her body leaned towards the voluptuous type. Clearly, she had put in quite a bit of effort to train to this degree. Since he was envious, Luo Nan couldn't help but give her a few more glances. His eyesight was good. He could clearly see that a layer of red had already appeared on Bai Yu's snow-white belly. Well, the little girl was shy. Of course, Bai Yu knew how awkward her current position was. She put on her shoes in a standard flustered manner and retreated in a sorry state. She nearly sprained her ankle. Fortunately, Shui Yuan caught her from behind. Thoughts of a completely new direction fluctuated intermittently. Beautiful youthful limbs moved closer and farther away. The situation had changed in succession in a short few seconds. Luo Nan could not help but sigh. Bai Yu had become extremely sensitive right now. What? What are you sighing for? Shui Yuan and Clara had already given up all hope for Luo Nan to be able to ask such a stupid question. Luo Nan could feel that the little girl had lost her mind from embarrassment and anger. He didn't want to make things difficult for her, so he casually made up a reason. I'm a bit disappointed. I originally wanted to use the credit of running errands to get an autograph from Shi Wei. But in the end my lunchbox was taken away and I even ran into that manager Sha. Bai Yu no longer dared to speak. Clara was a bit displeased with Luo Nan's bullying of her sister. She curled her lips and said, "You want an autograph and you say you're not familiar with the entertainment circle?" Luo Nan spread his hands. My cousin is crazy about her. An autograph can be exchanged for at least 2 sumptuous meals. There's no hope now. Clara deliberately teased him. She flicked her hair out of habit and even gave him a coquettish look. We'll sign it to you. But in another 10 years. Poo. In another year maybe it'll be worth a lot of money. It won't be a problem to make your brother, and you confused. Really? Are you sure? Cat Eyes, who had been brewing tea in the lounge this entire time, finally came out. She held a bamboo tea tray in one hand and walked straight to Luo Nan's side to sit down. Her movements were quite skillful as she sat down. The tea tray spun horizontally, but the small and exquisite teapot and teacups on it were all stable and proper. Not a single drop of water came out. It was as if she was performing acrobatics. The gazes of the group shifted. Luo Nan was fine, but the BHD trio and Yu Qin gasped in surprise. Claire was a bit emotional. If I had this level of balance and body control, I would apply to the Auckland Academy of Performing Arts right now. I would be an artist when I graduate. Cat Eyes gently and dexterously put down the tea tray. She shot a glance at them. Don't change the subject. Barbie, since you said that you can make the boss confused, then you guys go prepare and give it a try. The BHD trio were all stupefied. It took quite a while for Clara to understand. I'm just saying. It's fine as long as I'm serious. The break time is over. Let's do the last adaptation exercise before lunch. You guys didn't have an audience of the opposite sex before, so you guys weren't able to get good feedback. But now there's a certain someone here. At least the age matches. He's clearly an entertainment illiterate. It's fine as long as he's a normal man. Cat Eyes turned her head to ask Luo Nan after she finished speaking, "Boss, are you all right? Get lost. Then let's begin." Cat Eyes poured a cup of tea down her throat and sighed in satisfaction. You guys have 1 minute to clean up the area. The BHD trio immediately turned into a chaotic mess. Luo Nan watched Cat Eyes drink tea, thinking that he would be able to get the last treatment. He never thought that Cat Eyes would place the tea tray on the other side of her body. She even called out to Yu Qin. "You get a cup too. Mr. Luo. There are only 2 cups. He definitely has to display his style. Then I'll go get some refreshments. He won't have any tea. He'll choke to death." "Choke your sister." Luo Nan used a fierce gaze to gouge out Cat Eyes, but she leaned against his shoulder in an extremely intimate manner. She giggled and tilted her head. "What were you doing just now?" There was no need for Luo Nan to hide anything from this believer of his who had a deep tendency to self-destruct. He simply described the process of his research. He also wanted to share his experiences. "I've never tested this sort of technique on an ordinary person before. I tried it out today. It's quite easy to get used to it. In the past I'm an expert in long-range sensing. I'm not a mind excavator. There should always be a comparison between ability users and non-ability users. Luo Nan's gaze unconsciously glanced at Cat Eyes as he spoke. If you want to talk about test subjects, there's an ideal one here. Are you thinking about this? I'm saying. Did you know that the BHD group is also a test subject? I just heard Director Shaw mention it. Excellent. Now you can experience it for a bit. The prelude to the music rang out. The 3 members of the girl group laughed as they gathered together. They each took their positions. Some were squatting, some were standing, and some were raising their heads slightly. Although the postures they adopted were all different, they had all gone through thousands of tempering. They were the most outstanding and most moving postures. Their gazes were different from the sculptures. The first thing they did was focus on the audience, which was Luo Nan. The 3 beautiful and cute girls cast their gazes over at the same time. They hooked their gazes and hooked Luo Nan's soul. Luo Nan's heart thumped. The dynamic dance music had already begun. As the captain, Shui Yuan's singing was very solid. Her enunciation was clear and there was a bit of a metallic sound to it. However, Luo Nan couldn't hear what she was singing clearly. The 3 youthful bodies swaying before his eyes dazzled his eyes. The song and dance of the BHD group didn't have any artistic qualities, but every movement of theirs displayed youthfulness and dynamism. Well, in fact, it just highlighted the beauty and figures of the girls. Only after Luo Nan recovered from these direct impacts did he notice the lyrics, the song, the singing skills, and the characteristics of each member's temperament. Luo Nan really was unable to shift his eyes away. Unknowingly, there was an awkward feeling of dryness spreading throughout his body. The feeling was especially intense in certain areas. Cat Eye's voice cut in at this time. Do you see the problem? Luo Nan wanted to speak, but he was unable to say anything in the end. He could only shake his head awkwardly. Cat Eyes raised an eyebrow and the topic of conversation changed in an instant. Tisk. You only have one good point. Luo Nan glared at her. He didn't try to conceal it. This is instinct. But I'm not a beast. Before his voice fell, Cat Eyes clearly blew a breath of air into his ear. The warm, itchy, and numb feeling radiated to his entire head in an instant. What accompanied it was a low and hoarse laughter. If you're worse than a beast, then you're really done for. This was right under the eyes of others. Luo Nan was shocked at first, but then his fury wrapped in restless emotions and burned all the way up. What the hell are you doing?